I've made it. I made it. 23 minutes late, but I made it. God damn, these graphics were giving me a pain in the butt. But I know you guys enjoyed them a lot, so I just wanted to make sure that I got it all prepped and ready to go for the stream. Did complete the remainder of my tape index for this, or not the tape index, sorry, my taping for this card in preparation for the stream as well. So, yeah, we are here. We've made it. So I apologize. And no, I have not indulged in the 420 yet. That is going to be in preparation for the Lucky Late Night that I'm going to be doing later on this evening. I have it scheduled for about 11:55 p.m. So if you guys are, night owls, or if you like staying up, you guys can catch me in a little bit more of a chillaxed state and celebrating 420 at 11:55. It's just about midnight Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys are around, make sure you guys come check it out, and we'll just talk some shit. But this episode, this stream, is to talk about the big UFC 261 pay-per-view that we got coming up this weekend. 3 title fights. We got the flyweight title on the line. We got the strawweight title on the line. And then most importantly, we got the welterweight title on the line. A rematch between Jorge Masvidal and Kamaru Usman. The rematch that nobody wanted, but we're still getting it because some people are convinced that a full training camp, Jorge Masvidal will be able to give a better representation of himself against Kamaru Usman. He might be able to chalk up one round, but I still don't think he'll end up winning the fight. Obviously, we'll get into that later in the podcast, but I do appreciate everybody checking out the stream again as late as I am. I appreciate you guys still checking it out and enjoying the channel, the stream. Make sure you guys like, support. You guys can dislike as well, I guess, since I was late today, but I do appreciate the support regardless. It seems like the chat is nice and lit up for my arrival. You guys are absolute savages just sitting here waiting for my ass. So I do apologize for the lateness here. Let me just see if there's anything if there's anything important that I missed other than you guys ragging on me or celebrating 420. So I appreciate you guys. Peter Strillo saying RIP. I apologize. All right. Looks like you guys are pretty much ready to go. Gift of nothing with the early dono. Appreciate it, my guy. Usman and Zhang in a parlay. Who's looking like a safe pick to add to it? I will get to that a little bit later. So hopefully you can stick around and hear my thoughts on that. All right. Let's see what else the rest. JSJ23 saying this bong rips for you, Luck. I appreciate it. Again, I'll be indulging a little bit later. There's no way I can do a breakdown video like this while I'm up there. I just can't do it. So I got to be as fresh with my mind as possible, so I can get through these breakdowns without completely stumbling through my words and absolutely, not making any fucking sense. So, Detroit Rennie's saying, sign up for the Patreon. It's good content over there. I appreciate it, my guy. We're up to 316 patrons. If you guys remember a couple weeks ago, we're only at like 250, 260. So the love is definitely pouring in right now, and I totally feel it. And I want to thank each and every one of you for, really supporting this dream of mine and allow me to continue to do this on a full-time basis. And I'm gonna keep those logs coming for you. You guys can call, other people can call me fish or call me a squirrel, call me whatever the fuck, but we're 9 straight winning events in a row, not to mention a couple multi-event parlays that are seriously in play coming up for this weekend and obviously next weekend as well. So hopefully some of the people on the Patreon have been able to follow those parlays, and we can start cashing those as well. But the main thing is the lock of the night play. And I've hit 8 of those in a row. We had one push in there with Leon Edwards against Bilal Muhammad. But still, 8 straight lock of the night hits, 9 straight winning events. What can I say? Your boys on a roll. We're just going to fucking keep it rolling for sure. Biggs Omega just signed up for the tape index. If you guys are not aware of the tape index, shout out to my guy Biggs Omega for actually bringing this to my attention. If you don't know what the tape index is, let me see if I could actually bring it up for you guys right now and just give you guys a quick run through of what it is. But it is a great service. It's something that I right now we have 3 events up there. I'm going to be looking to add more, at least one more tomorrow. And then as my time starts to free up, I want to keep adding more and more. But check this out. Let me see if I can throw it up here for you guys. But it is a very, very handy tool. Shout out to everybody that's been on the Patreon for sure. or sorry, on the tape index. Here you guys go. So the tape index is pretty much all you need to prepare for your upcoming events in terms of a betting perspective. So we got the PFL up there. We have every single fighter that's fighting, as well as a direct link to their fights. Now it's not every single one of their fights, but I do as deep of a dive as I can into the dark webs to find every single fight that I can of every fighter dating back to 2013. See, look at that. I messed this up. I got to fill in this right here. PFL is a little bit harder to do because like Bellator is easy. The prelims is pretty much fighters that have like 3 or 4 fights, so that's easy to do. But PFL seems to be grabbing guys from all corners of the world, and they have multiple different fights that I have to go out there and find and put together. But it's still a very good resource. We have, again, all their fights. It'll go straight to the fight that you want. Some of them are on YouTube, whatever it is. Some of them are on like just foreign channels. And then also we do have even more helpful things like there's UFC stats page ready to go right there for you. So you just have a 1 click away. Tapology, Instagram. So everything is on one page for you guys. It's $3.99, super cheap. You know, considering the amount of work it takes to put this damn thing together, $3.99 a month. You get PFL, Bellator, and UFC. I'm trying to get as ahead of schedule as possible. Right now, we only have the next 3 events, but I'll be looking to add the next UFC event and the next Bellator event within the next day or two. But yeah, my goal was always to get as ahead as like as many fights has been announced. But since we did a recent update where we started adding ESPN links, if you guys see here, I don't have access to ESPN Plus, but it still takes you straight to the ESPN fight because I know a lot of you guys in the States are not able to access some more recent fights on Fight Pass. They're only available on ESPN Plus, so we added the ESPN Plus. Links for you guys as well. So yeah, that little update that we added is a bit of a pain in terms of making me switch the code from the old format to the newer format, which is why it's taking me a little bit longer to put these tape index things together. But it's super helpful. I have no idea how I used to tape my fights before using the tape index because I know people that have to scour the web to find their fights, and you know it's great for fighters that are newer to the UFC. It's great for fighters that are only like making their debut or something like that. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Tape Index is the bomb. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. I believe it's in my description as well for this video. So make sure you guys check it out. It's only $3.99. Super cheap. Trust me, you guys are going to love it. All right. Let's get into this fucking show now. I don't want to keep you guys waiting too much longer. Give me 1 sec. Let me just set it up. See if anybody in the chat is saying anything. Nick West is saying Lockpreet, what it do? I like that. I like it. I like it. I like it. Aaron Milner, free UFC bet picks crew in the house, getting turned up and learned up thanks to Matt Breed. Just follow my guys for UFC bets. They're killing it. Free UFC bet picks on Instagram. They're absolutely killing it. I believe it's a wife and a husband couple that are absolutely killing it. Shout out to you guys. You guys are awesome. Aaron Milner is saying Tape Index is a great value. I absolutely agree. Brad Carmichael is saying Romanov gassed the fuck out. Yeah, we'll quickly talk about the last event real quick for you guys. Yep, he likes that. It's Biggs Omega trivia question for you. Last 2 weeks we had main event scorecard sweeps. When was the last time this happened before then? Main event scorecard sweeps. I'm not sure actually. If you have the answer, go for it. Hit us with the answer. Chris Nelson asking what's the price of the tape index? $3.99 USD. Super easy. Aaron Mercer, dude, the fight index saves for hours for real. I'd pay $100 for it. It's $4. Yeah, exactly. Peter Sirlo saying, keep spamming it. You know I will. You know I will. I put a lot of work into that shit. Mystic Sosa saying, I can't wait for this week. I bet my house on Usman by decision -110. I like it. I like it. All right, let's get into this. There we go. All right. First and foremost, Also, by the way, if there are questions about other cards or anything like that, I'm not doing it. This stream is strictly for UFC 261 going down this weekend. I'll be starting off the bottom of the card, going to the main event, giving you guys my quick and brief thoughts regarding it. We'll talk in the chat. We'll talk some shit about the specific fight that I'm speaking of at that time, and then we'll move on to the next one, right? First and foremost, we got to do the betting recap, right? Betting recap is a must. Always. Transparency 101. Guarantee you, there's not a lot of people that like to do it, but you got to do it. That's how you gain the trust of your followers, of your viewers. So let's go through it. First and foremost, the what is that? Bellator 257. So we had two events this past weekend, and they were both hits. Let's start off with Bellator 257. With the second fight of the night, we had 4 units. Lock of the night play on Masvidal minus 198. That cashes for 2.02 units. Happy with that one. It's even nicer when he's able to get the finish, so we don't have to sweat out a full 15 minutes. So solid work for Masvidal there, showing off that he's the better jiu-jitsu player than Saul Rogers. And it was interesting to me that Saul was tackling or going for the takedowns as much as he was, because that was just, that's Masvidal's world. I know Saul Rogers is a solid jiu-jitsu player himself, but it was not a good look for Saul to continuously go after the ground game of Burnell. Every time he took him down, Burnell sweeped him, reversed him, got back on top, and then eventually got in that choke for the finish. So big win for Burnell there. Easy win. Great win. And then the dog of the night play. I actually went with Phil Davis, 1 unit at plus 170. Now, it's tough with that one, right? It's always tough betting on Phil Davis because he just seems a little bit too lackadaisical at times. But I was putting a lot of emphasis on the last fight in regards to Vadim Nemkov, slowing down at the end of that fight. He's never been to championship rounds. It seemed like the tide was really turning in that first fight. And even though Vadim won the first fight, I thought it was very close, and I thought that Phil Davis was going to start to pull away as he's had more experience in the championship rounds. That was not the case. Vadim Nemkov did a good job of sustaining his cardio throughout the 5 rounds and was pretty much able to, I believe the final scorecards were 48-47, so he was able to notch at least 3 rounds there. And I thought Phil Davis would be a little bit more successful with his wrestling, just as he was in the 3rd round in their first fight. But Vadim showed improvements. The kid's still young. He still has a lot of time to grow, and I didn't take that into consideration, but I'm not mad at taking that plus 170 shot. So not too mad at that. Regardless, lock of the night play hits, and that's always the main focus for me. The dog of the night play is just a cherry on top. I have my lock of the night play. I'm happy. So we do profit on Bellator 257 plus 1.02 units for a 20% ROI. It's money in the bank. That's all that matters to me. Next up, the next night we had UFC Vegas 24. We'll go with the dog of the night play first. I had the under 2.5 in the Arlovsky and Sherman fight. I was expecting Sherman to open up a little bit more to cause either him knocking out Arlovsky or the other way around. Never really transpired. My dog of the night play was initially Miss Zara Farn, who missed weight by like 11 pounds. Even after the catch weight, she missed about by 7 pounds. I had 1.25 units on her at plus 105. Obviously, that fight gets pulled, never ends up happening, but I thought that was a great stylistic matchup for her. However, she just could not cut the weight, could not get down to 135, could not get down to 139. They eventually cut that fight. So I do end up losing on the dog of the night play there. However, lock of the night play comes through. Tracy Cortez, a much closer fight than I would have liked. Obviously, she misses weight as well. She misses by 0.5 pounds. A lot of people, cause for concern that Tracy Cortez might shit the bed. And not the public, though, not Vegas, at least, as the line started to get wider, even without the weight make for Cortez. But the fight does play out closer. I did think Cortez did enough to win the first 2 rounds. That 3rd round, even though she did get somewhat dropped by Quiche, I thought it was more so of being off balance and the timing of that Quiche shot, which was great, but I still thought that Cortez won the majority of that round. Regardless, we end up winning that fight as well. So that profits 2.15 units on Tracy Cortez, and all in all, plus 1.15 units on that UFC event. So all in all here for that weekend, we go plus 2.17 units for last weekend. More than happy with that. Slow and steady wins the race. We're about 7 units down on the year right now, and that's much better than the minus 25 units I was down before this 9-event winning streak. So it's the old school lock and then I play, holding true and sticking sticking to it, and just trusting the process, and it's working out. That there's a reason why the Patreon has grown as much as it has, because people, it doesn't seem like people give a fuck about hitting sharp lines anymore. Like that, I don't care to hit, minus 120s, minus 130s, or underdogs on the regular. I hit my lock of the night plate. That's all that fucking matters to me. It's all that matters to me. And it's working out. And it's shown with the success that I'm having right now and the trust that people are putting into me. And that's what I'm going to continue to do on a week-to-week basis, on a fight-to-fight basis. That's what we're doing. We're finding that lock of the night play and unloading on that shit. And then obviously we have a couple of our multi-event parlays that I'm starting to put out there on the Patreon. Hopefully we got one riding this weekend with 3 legs left on it. Then we got another one riding with 2 legs on it for next weekend. Good times. Let's just say good times over at the Lock of the Night Industries. So I'm very happy with how things have been turning out. Let's see what the chat is saying here. Mystic Sosa is saying I won a lot of money on Raymond Daniels. He came out as a plus 240, so I put 4 units in it and set me up great for UFC. Didn't he end with like minus 300 or something? They must have absolutely butchered that line. SKD reminding you guys, make sure you guys hit that like. Please do. That definitely helps. Wael saying I forgot how old Davis is. Yeah, I didn't forget. I still thought he was competing at a high level, but yeah, that really stuck. Big Zomeg saying Thompson over Neal and a Holloway over Cater was the last time we had back-to-back events with main event scorecard sweeps. Yeah, that wasn't too long ago. That was what, like 3 months ago? Mystic Sosa had Arlovsky straight. That was a great bet. Great bet. Aaron Milner is saying everybody's on a nice 4 or 5 card win streak. Lock of the night has been winning even when everyone else was losing. Yeah, I think this lock of the night streak has been going since the beginning of March. Absolutely crazy. I'm pretty sure I could be. Oh no, yeah, it was UFC 259 by like that started where I had Sean Brady as my lock of the night. PG is saying, what up, Block? I'm surprised about the odds on the over 2.5, 3.5. And if I go to the decision on both female title fights, I like those odds. I look forward to getting into that with you, brother. Hammering Hog is in the chat. What's going on, buddy? TJK was saying, biggest robbery of all time was done to Espino. He about to finish, dude. And guy can't continue because of his leg from nutshot. Yeah, I thought that was very much overplayed by Romanov. I did lose a little bit of respect for the guy. I won't lie. I'd be interested to see if they actually line that fight up together again. That'll be a great fight. Aaron Miller reminding you guys, I'm the lock of the night for the reason. You already know. Big Omega saying, my dog and I played locked up at plus 185 this week, and I already steamed to minus 150. Interesting. I think I know what it is, but we'll see once we get into it. All right, let's get into the card. We might as well not waste any more time. First and foremost, we got Ariane Carnelossi versus not Liang. This is an interesting fight because we don't have too much out there on Liang, and somebody did send me more tape on Liang that I'm going to have to look into. But from what I've seen thus far, she seems like a very grapple heavy fighter, likes to wrestle, likes to take fights to the ground, and really start getting her game going that way. And she seems like she's going to have a huge height advantage here, right? As long as UFC stats is not wrong, I'm just going to make sure that it's correct one more time. But it looks like there's going to be a huge size advantage here for Na Liang. So, yeah, she's coming in okay. UFC stats actually has her at 5'5". So I apologize. It seems like it is off. So she's going to have a 4-inch height advantage. According to – let me pull this up. According to Tapology, she's 5'9". Is that correct? Yeah. According to Tapology, she's 5'9". According to UFC stats, she's 5'5". I am going to believe that she's 5'5", as UFC stats is way more, way more trustworthy than Tapology at this point in time. And then in terms of reach, we're talking about Topology has her listed at 67, and UFC Stats has a 66-inch. So she's going to have a 3-inch height advantage as well as a 5-inch reach advantage here. And then obviously she'll have the youth advantage by about 4 years. But in terms of experience, she has 19 fights. She's 19 fights. Compared to the 14 fights of Ariane Carnelossi. And Carnelossi, she's only had that one fight in the UFC at this point in time, right? She had that one loss to Angela Hill, where she had a big cut open up on her face. I believe it was her forehead, and then the UFC or the referee ended up stopping that fight. Carnelossi looks like that, like John Lineker type of fighter, right? Moves forward, throws a lot of big bombs, very muscular, a lot of winging shots. And now Liang, like I said, more wrestling based, more likes to take the fighter, her opponents to the ground and try to grind them out that way. She's obviously training at the UFC PI in Shanghai now. You'll see a couple of other PI fighters that are going to be on this card, and it seems like they're really starting to push these fighters. But the odds don't make it really seem like this fight's in the favor of Liang. I wish she sets up the takedowns a little bit better. So she's going to have to work on her hands some more. And hopefully that's something that they've been able to tackle over at the UFC PI in most recent fights. But, the level of competition is going to be day and night in terms of what she's been fighting over there in China compared to what she's going to be fighting over there in the UFC. I think that's going to be a huge change for her in terms of, okay, these are not the same fighters. These are not the same level of fighters. My question is, how successful is she going to be on the takedowns? Because that could be very important here for her to actually secure that and potentially get the victory. So I do lean her ever so slightly. There's just too many question marks. I'm not a big fan of Carnelossi's style, to be honest, right? She's just a juggernaut. She moves forward, she throws big shots. If she's able to put you out, she puts you out. If she's not able to put you out, her cage control and her forward movement is going to be enough to actually get her the W. It might also seem that Carnelossi might be too strong for Liang to actually get this fight to the ground. But given that Liang is, again, the graphic is wrong there. She's 5'5", according to UFC stats. Maybe that helps Liang a little bit. Maybe she does overwhelm her a little bit on the feet. And then here comes another question. How much cardio does Carnelossi truly have to bring to the table? And will she be able to stop the onslaught of takedowns that's going to be coming from now Liang? I'm gonna lean Liang ever so slightly. Like, this might be a pick that changes throughout the week, but I'm gonna have to run into that tape that one of my buddies actually sent me of her more recent fights and see if that actually changes my mind on anything. But I am gonna lean Liang here. I'm gonna take her to win by decision. But this, if anything, this fight's a stay away fight for me. Yeah, Mystic Souls is saying the same thing as me. I don't like Liang's takedowns. She goes for them from like 3 football fields away. Yeah, that again, she telegraphs it a little bit too much. That is a little bit of a concern, but we'll see if she's able to tighten this up. Game Day is saying, love this format. I'm glad that you do. Time is not a line is saying eclipse 3K subs, bro. The snowball effect, or the snowball is starting to roll downhill. Exactly, brother. We're killing it. I think we're at 30-50 now. So again, even the Patron, we're at like 316. Absolutely kill it. Nick West is saying Carnelossi will boot fuck Liang. All right. My guy Nick West knows his shit. So if he's seeing that, maybe I gotta dig a little bit harder into the tape of Liang before I truly make my decision here. All right, let's move on to the next fight. Another debutant from the UFC PI, Qileng Aori. God damn, I'm gonna butcher these. I need to hear them like from Brennan Fitzgerald or fucking what's his face, John Anik, who's going to be doing the call this weekend. So we got, I'm going to go with Qileng and Jeff Molina here. Jeff Molina, obviously, he hasn't made his UFC debut yet, and he's falling onto hard times, right? He was scheduled to fight a bunch of times. From my memory, he was supposed to fight Zrugadishev. That fight gets pulled out. He beat this guy, Jacob Silva, back in August of 2020. He was only scheduled to fight Zrugadishev in January. Molina tests positive for COVID. He pulls out, and now here he is back 4 months later, ready to take on this UFC newcomer. He is a Glory MMA and fitness guy training under James Krause. Solid striking. Seems like he has some solid potential. And the guy's only 23 years old, so I think he has a lot of room to grow here. Aori, on the other hand, seems like a guy with solid striking. He seems like he's going to be well. He has 1 inch height advantage as well as 1 inch reach advantage here. So that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for him in terms of maintaining the distance. But the guy seems to have some decent striking, good power in his hands too. Is Jeffrey Molina really going to be able to deal with that? I remember when I broke down Molina and Adeshev, I actually did lean with Adeshev to be the more crisp striker and actually get the W in that fight. But I feel like this Molina guy is going to be able to go out there and put some good work against Aori here. Molina, again, very smooth striker, very solid kicks, very good combinations, decent understanding of range management. He's going to have to be moving very well here because I do think that Qileng has some solid power in his hands, and that's something that he's going to have to worry about. Now, the experience level is completely different, right? You got 24 fights for Qileng compared to the 10 fights for Molina, not to mention that Molina's been out of the cage for a little while now. I do want to confirm the last time that we've seen Qileng in the cage because he might actually be out a little bit longer. He actually competed, yeah. It's been over 15 months since we've seen Qileng in the cage, but those guys fight all the fucking time. Like in 2019, he fought 1, 2, 3 times. In 2018, he fought 5 times. 2017, he fought 5 times. Like it's crazy. It doesn't seem like they have a medical suspension that they usually hand down to these fighters, which is why this guy's able to fight as often as he is. So he's accrued a wealth of experience, since he turned pro, and that might come into play here against Jeff Molina. Now, the fighters might be a different type of fighter. I like what we see from Molina though, right? I need to get a little bit more tape in my hands on Qileng before I can truly make a decision here. I will go with Molina ultimately, but we need to see these Chinese fighters that are coming from the PI that have just gotten signed to the UFC. We need to see a little bit more from them against these North American fighters. Especially coming into the UFC to see how they're going to pan out. So I'll go with Molina to win by decision here, but it's not a confident pick whatsoever. I completely agree with the line being as close as it is because Qileng, the little bit of tape I do have available that I was able to watch, he seemed intriguing, right? He seemed like a solid guy. Great awareness when he's on the ground with the submission game, but even on the feet, the guy seems to have a lot of power in his hands, and he's not really a headhunter. He does go to the body a little bit, but I do like Molina's overall game here. Great comment here from Biggs Omega. Molina fighting low level guys. Silva was his biggest test thus far. If I'm correct as well, Silva was the guy that lost to lost to JP Bays off that weird submission. Or I should say that phantom tap that got JP Bays into the UFC. So this could be a step up in competition for Jeff Molina, right? Like Qileng has a wealth of experience, so we'll see how that actually pulls out for him. I will go with Molina, but not with the utmost confidence. There's so many question marks on both guys here. Let's see what the chat is saying here. We won't be discussing with what Hammer Hog is trying to bring to the table here. That's been talked about enough on these streams. So we'll keep it moving along. Next up, we got Rodrigo Vargas going up against Zhu Rong. Another guy, Zhu Rong, who's very highly touted, 20 fights. He's only 21 years old. I just don't believe that, right? This is the same situation as when we had Song Yadong come to the UFC, right? And nobody would believe that he was 20 years old or 21 years old, whatever the fuck he was. So that's another question mark that we have here. Regardless, the guy has so many fucking fights already, but level of competition is another thing that we need to worry about here. They can easily pad the record of these guys over there, especially when they're being brought over to the UFC PI, right? They must see something in these guys that, yeah, they are skilled, but they're head and shoulders above the rest of the competition that's on the Chinese regional scene. Obviously, they are able to bring in other fighters from other countries, so it's not just it's not just Chinese fighters that he's fighting, but still the level of competition is going to be completely different. With that said, I still think that Rodrigo Vargas is one of the lower level guys in the UFC, and kind of surprised that he still has a job, especially after that blatant disqualification loss that he had last time against Brock Weaver um, with that crazy knee that he was landing on Brock Weaver. So clean, right on the button, just very, very nasty. Unfortunate knee for the Brock Weaver side of things. But Rodrigo Vargas seems like that guy wants to go out there, throw hands, throw leather, wants to try to knock you out. He did take that different approach in the Brock Weaver fight where he was one that went for the takedowns. And I thought it was more so him trying to save his job, right? Like he had that Alex De Silva fight where he just got completely grapple fucked. And all he wanted to do was throw some hands. He got into the UFC off of 2 straight wins, one of them being over a former UFC fighter in Mike De La Torre, which is probably why he got the call. But I still don't think he's at the level that to compete even against the middle tier level of fighters in the UFC. With that said, this Rong guy seems like he has a solid amount of experience, great striking, solid takedowns, good jiu-jitsu game. I think he could absolutely give Vargas some troubles here. So I'm going to go with Rong, but I have something in my gut saying don't play that minus 250. That could blow up in your face. Let's see what this guy has in the UFC first before we start to start singing his praises and start playing that minus 250. I do like him. This does seem like a setup fight in terms of getting him into the UFC with a win. Obviously, coming from the UFC PI, that's another pushing factor for him to go out there and get a win over a guy like Vargas. And unless Vargas knocks him out, I just don't see the other ways that he beats him. Rong could, grind him out if he wants to. He could go out there and outstrike him if he wants to and stay away from the big power. But I think Vargas is a little bit one-dimensional. Maybe he tried to show a little bit more of his colors last time around when he, was taking the grapple fuck approach against Brock Weaver. But we just didn't really get to see it play out over a solid amount of time. And not to mention, it's fucking Brock Weaver, right? Brock Weaver is not the greatest fighter of his own. If anything, Brock Weaver was maybe a slight step up above him, which is why Weaver was a minus 230 going into that fight. But I like Rong here. I'll take him to win this fight. I want to say second round or third round TKO. You know what? Fuck it. I'll go with second round TKO. This is what I like. But I want to see this guy in the cage and see if he's truly worthy of the minus 250 line. Luke Fulton is saying, are we lighting up and locking on here? I will be lighting up before Lucky Late Night. So if you want to stick around, I believe in about three hours time, I'll be going live for Lucky Late Night and definitely celebrating 420. Average Joe is saying, I can't believe Rong had his first professional fight at 16. This guy is going to be really good in a couple of years. Yeah, it's crazy. Him, Song Yadong, they're fighting at 15, 16 years old. It's fucking crazy. SKD is saying, feels like the line should be closer, but I am betting Vargas. Exactly. I think that's what most people's observation of this fight was like, are we really gonna bet fucking Rodrigo Vargas here? Let me see what the line actually opened at. Yeah, open minus 250. Actually, Bet Online normally has the first dibs on the lines here. They opened wrong at minus 250. Now it's minus 255. So there you go. Time is not a line is saying Rong Zhu looks to be the most impressive guy out of the China PI. I agree, and has the easiest matchup of the three, in my opinion. I agree. Mystic Souls is saying Vargas is what the UFC call stepping stone for the studs. I'm right there with you. Biggs Omega, 10 fights before your 18th birthday is nuts. Yeah, they don't give a fuck in China. Luke Fulton, company setting up a lot of Chinese fighters because Zhang on the card. Yeah, that's another good point. Yeah, she is co-headlining this card. Pay-per-view Dizzle saying congrats on 3.5K. It's actually 3.05, so it's like 3,050, but I can't wait to get to 3,500. Sex God saying Vargas was being the goat weaver though. He was grapple fucking him. Luke Fulton saying, I'll meet you at the lock night, brother. Unfortunately, I'm at work and can't join in. That's fine. I'll take an extra one just for you. Brad Carmichael saying, what do you think about the Close and Stevens drama? Again, I don't want to talk too much about things that aren't on UFC 261, but that was fucked up. I hope they rebook the fight because obviously there's some heat now. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got up Danaa Batgerel versus Kevin Natividad. I'm very much looking forward to this fight. It seems like there's some steam coming in on Batgerel at this point in time, and I completely understand it. Kevin Natividad has a really good jiu-jitsu game, questionable wrestling game, and Batgerel has a very solid Muay Thai kickboxing game that I think is going to come into play here, and I think he's absolutely going to light up Kevin Natividad here. Now, Natividad last time around, he went out there and got knocked the fuck out by Miles Johns in the third round. If you guys haven't seen that knockout, I would highly suggest doing so. One of the most unique knockouts I've ever seen. There's an uppercut, but the way Natividad just got laid out afterwards was very, very, unique. Never seen anything like it before. The guy almost did a fucking backflip, but he would have probably spiked his head and knocked himself out. But he was already out. Great placement from that Miles John uppercut. uppercut. And you can actually hear Saif Sayud in the corner of Miles Johns asking for the uppercut for like a minute before he actually ended up throwing it, landing it, and obviously knocking out Kevin Natividad. So very unfortunate outcome for Natividad in his UFC debut. If you guys remember, he was actually supposed to step in against Brian Kelleher when there was that whole Ray Rodriguez thing going on. Kelleher went through, I think, like 2 or 3 opponents during that fight week, and Natividad was one of them. They ended up signing Natividad. He didn't end up fighting that night. Eventually, they lined up with Miles Johns, and then he ended up losing that fight. But solid fighter on the LFA scene, but I don't know if he's going to be able to cut it in the UFC. I think this is a very tough fight for him here against Batgerel, who's just going to have him beat on the feet. I've always wanted a savage motherfucker from Mongolia to come into the UFC and start taking shit over. And now I'm not saying that Danaa is going to go out there and absolutely murk shit in this 135-pound division. Like, he already has a loss to Haile Alatang, who, had a solid game plan of his own, just kept on the outside and then just crashed forward with some big shots. And then eventually in the third round took him down and was able to kind of grind him out for the majority of that round. There's just so many question marks regarding how good Kevin Natividad's wrestling is, because if he's not able to get this fight to the ground, I think he's fucked, right? I think Batgerel beats up his lead leg. I think he beats him up on the feet. I find it hard to believe that Natividad actually survives all 3 rounds here. I actually like Batgerel to win by KO, and I see my guy Big Somega's already on it. Plus 275 for Batgerel to win by KO. I like it. I'm right there. I don't mind that at all. I think this is a very solid spot for him. There's a reason his line is starting to climb the way it is. He opened minus 150. Now he's down to minus 185. There's a reason that he's getting bet up, because I think he's the much better fighter here. Now, if Natividad is able to get him down, then I have some question marks. Then I'm just like, ooh, this minus 185 doesn't look so good anymore. Officially, I won't be playing Batgerel, but I'm not going to be banging on anybody that decides to not. I might throw Batgerel into a couple lottery parlays or something like that. Maybe throw him into my next multi-event parlay. But I think that this is a great spot for him to go out there and showcase his striking and possibly coming out on the winning end via KO. So I do like Batgerel here. Mr. Souza saying he's staying away from this one. Luke Folters is already on Batgerel. I'm right there. Captain Comparison pick is saying Batgerel is a Mongolian fighter out of Jackson Wink. That he is. Nick Westar is already on Batgerel as of Monday morning. I'm right there with you. Average Joe saying, I already bet Natividad and I keep betting him as he goes up. Natividad got KO'd by Johns, who was pretty good, and Batgerel lost to Alatang. I think Johns is much better than Alatang. MMA math does not work, my friend. You might be right here in terms of like Natividad might come out and win this fight, but that's a bad approach in terms of figuring out how to cap this fight. Alatang has a completely different approach from Natividad and has different skills than Natividad too. Ben Peak, if Danaa was in the power striker, I'd be all over Kevin as an underdog. Luke Fulton calling out the MMA math. Mystic Souza, this fight's going to be close. It could be. To me, it all depends on how successful Natividad is in terms of clinching Batgerel and then eventually taking him down if he's able to. Pierce Hager is saying, how was that Alatang fight 10-8 third round shot? Shit confused me. I didn't actually even notice that. That's a very bad scorecard if that's what it is. DPS, yes, but we're not working with Wild Johns and Halia Tang with working with Batgerel and Natividad. Thank you. Hammering Hog is saying Tristan Connelly not locking in. I think that's the next fight I'm going to be talking about. Richard Perez got 2 racks on Batgerel to win via KO. That is a very confident man right there. I hope it cashes for you, brother. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. And just as I said, we got Tristan Connelly versus Pat Sabatini here. And this fight, I do like Pat Sabatini, but I think that the sneaky spot here is going to be, actually, I haven't even seen what the line is, under 2.5 at plus 175. These guys are scrappers. You know, they like to use their jiu-jitsu, they like to use their grappling, and more often than not, sometimes or more often than not, they get the finish, right? Let's look at the actual statistics here in terms of these guys getting finishes in their career, because just in their last 5 alone, right? Let's add it up. Their last 10, we got 4 out of 5 finishes for Pat Sabatini, and we got 4 out of 5 finishes for Tristan Connelly. So 8 out of their 10 last, combined last 5 fights, we're talking about 8 out of 10 times they get a finish. Let me just get the actual number here for you guys before I continue on with this. So Tristan Connelly, he's been to a decision 5 out of 20 of his fights. So 75% of the time, he is either getting finished or getting a finish himself. And then Pat Sabatini, on the other hand, 4 out of his 16 fights have come either by finish or getting finished. He got knocked out once, and then he has 9 submissions as well as 2 TKOs on his record. This might be one of those fights where it's just, just action heavy, action pretty much, right? Both guys are heavy in the grappling scene. Pat Sabatini is solid wrestler, good jiu-jitsu, not just good, great jiu-jitsu in my opinion. Tristan Connelly, 35 years old at this point in time. And what I like to refer to him as is like the Canadian Nick Lentz or the Canadian Darren Elkins. Like physically, he's not gifted as much as Sabatini or other guys that he's going up against, but he's able to get the job done because he's the grindier guy. He's the more durable guy, right? That's why he's able to go out there and get some of these finishes and these victories, which is why, he was able to pull out that win over Michel Pereira. Shout out to my guy, Cody Safdie, who I believe was one of the only guys on Tristan Connelly that night. And the opener on this line was absolutely crazy too, right? I think Sabatini opened up as a slight underdog. Where's Bet Online? Yeah, you opened up at plus 105 and quickly got bet down to minus 230, and you completely understand why, right? Sabatini, I think, is the better grappler. I think he's the better wrestler. I think he's the better jiu-jitsu guy. But who has the durability here? Who's going to be able to go longer and potentially get a later finish? But with that said, plus 175 on the under 2.5, I think is a great line. I think that's going to be something that I'm going to be targeting for this fight. There aren't too many underdogs that I like on this card. There is one that I'll talk about a little bit later. But for the most part, I think this is a fight where we'll see both guys, going for takedowns. Going to be a lot of reversals, possible submission attempts on either side. But I think it's going to be Sabatini who comes out with his hand raised here. Again, being a slightly younger guy, I think he's going to be the stronger guy as well. We got Carnelly with the 2-inch height advantage here, but also at a 2-inch reach disadvantage. But I think that this is going to be played like close in close quarters. I'd be surprised to see these guys go out there and strike with each other for 15 minutes. Both guys aren't most well-rounded on the feet. I think they get the best of their work done on the ground, just as Carnelly showed in his fight against Pereira. And then Pat Sabatini, if you guys have been watching CFFC fights, I think this is a solid spot for him to go out there and implement a similar type of game plan. So I like Sabatini here. I'm going to take him to win either by, I'm going to say second round TKO, probably on the ground, maybe even a submission of some sort. But these guys are going for it. They always go for it, and that's something that's making me very intrigued by the plus 175 on the under 2.5. So yeah, I like Sabatini here, and it hurts me to say that, especially going up against a guy that's a Canadian fella. But Sabatini is an absolute beast in himself, and I think he has, he's 30 years old, so he's going to have to get it going right now. But I think he's one of the guys with the higher ceilings that have been making their UFC debut over the last year or so. So I'm going Sabatini. I think this is a great matchup for him. He's going to be in for a fight early here, but I think he starts to pull away with it the longer it goes, and I'm going to go with Sabatini by second round TKO. or sub here. All right, let's see what the chat is saying about this fight. Brad Carmichael reminding us we're in Jacksonville, so they got a big cage. Back to the big cage. Teal took it in the chat. What's going on, my guy? Jose Lopez is saying, who is on my after the weigh-in show? Great question. This week we got a fire lineup. We got my guy Brett Apley from Daily Fan MMA. We got my guy Dan Levy from Best Fight Picks / Half the Battle. And then we got my guy Cody Saftik. He's going to be coming on. We're going to do back-to-back weeks or back-to-back days like we used to do back in the good old days. We do Thursday propping you up, and then he's going to be back on my Friday show with the rest of that gang. So we got a solid lineup for you guys this weekend. And how could I not, right? It's UFC 261, 3 title fights. I got to have some other 3 bangers on the show with me too. So I appreciate you guys asking me that question, and I can't wait. Nick West, got to go with Sabatini here. I agree. Brad Carmichael, P. Sab all day. I agree. Biggs Omega, this one going to be close. In my opinion, reminds me a bit of Bush and Hubbard last week. Interesting. I think that Sabatini is going to be a little bit further ahead here, though. Sex God, Connelly wants to experience in the fucking UFC. Yep. Loomis, Pat wrestling is levels above Connelly. I agree. Sex God, Connelly never fought in this weight class before. That's another good point that you bring up here. Mystic Soul's already on Pat at -180. That's a great fucking line. Brad Carmichael, Lotno, you're heavy on Usman, but have you factored in the big octagon? I don't think that's going to have an effect on the outcome of this fight at all. Loomis, if you like Connelly, just pass on the fight because Connelly is tough, but it's Pat who is better skilled. I agree. Pierce Hager, dog or pass, the line just seems too wide. Yep, right there with you. Let's see what Sabatini inside the distance is. Sabatini inside the distance plus 245. Biggs Omega, good point. Usman and Masvidal did fight in the bigger cage the first time. That was on Fight Island. Manuel Galarza, shout out my guy Galarza here. I'm on the Sabatini train by rear naked choke. Connelly's no joke though. USA versus Canada. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm on the USA side this time around. Mr. Souza, Tapology has Connelly winning 60%. Wow, that's crazy. OR asking me about Smith and Crute. That will be coming up very, very shortly. So just stick around for that. Mr. Souza saying half the battle is my shit. Yes, sir. SKD, tough lineup for Friday show. All ass kickers there for sure. If Connelly is training in Canada, he may be having issues finding good sparring partners since it's illegal here. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of lockdown shit going on right now. Bruce Jackson saying late, but in this piece, I was late too. Don't worry, brother. Noah was saying Tapology was also like 85% on Azaitar against Barrio last couple weeks ago. I agree. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Brendan Allen versus Karl Roberson. And this is a fight, one of the few fights, probably the only fight that I actually like the dog in this spot. So I think we're getting a very buy low situation here with Karl Roberson, who's coming off that debacle of the Marvin Vettori fights, right? They were scheduled a couple times. COVID played a situation. Karl Roberson misses weight. Even the Dalcha Lungiambula fights, right? He was supposed to fight Dalcha a couple times. One of them test positive, then the other test positive. He's just been marred by crazy situations outside the cage that have kept him out of the cage for a while now. And then everybody just has this weird notion about Karl Roberson after the Vettori fight. And he made a pretty good account of himself in that fight, even though he got submitted in that first round. Right, he was still going out there and he still had some good strikes. He had some good, transitions and reversals, and he had some good moments on the ground. It was ultimately Vettori, who was clearly the stronger man in those situations, who pulled out and pulled off that submission. But we know what Vettori brings to the table now, right? Since that fight, he goes out there and beats Shaq Manson. Then he goes out there and he just had that most recent fight against Kevin Hall, and now he's on the cusp of a title shot. So that loss doesn't look as bad to Vittori or anymore, a couple months removed from it. But I still think that people are super low on Karl Roberson just because of the perception of him now. But his striking is still good. Like, it's glory kickboxing level still. His grappling is not that bad. Like, I think a lot of people expected him to be a one-dimensional fighter when he came to the UFC, but like, his grappling is truly not that bad. You're gonna brag on him for getting submitted by Old Man Glover and by fucking Marvin Vittori. I think people are crazy to do that. Like, I still think the guy has a lot to give in this division, and I think that Brendan Allen is a very solid opponent for him to go out there and show that. Brendan Allen, in my opinion, is starting to fall into that Kevin Holland range where it's like, you guys are overrating him a little bit too much, right? Like, I was surprised that he was the favorite going into the Sean Strickland fight. I was all over Sean Strickland in that spot. Like, I truly believe that was a great fight for Strickland. A week removed from his last fight against fucking Jack Marshman, he was able to get back into the cage and knock out Brendan Allen the way that he did. Allen's best game is his grappling game, right? He had troubles with Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland was having a lot of success until he started to gas out, and then Brendan Allen took over from there. Tom Breeze, we know, is starting to turn out to be a bust. Kyle Daukaus put up one hell of a fucking fight as a plus 290 underdog coming in on short notice and gave Brendan Allen everything he could and made it a very, very close fight. And then obviously gets knocked out by Sean Strickland. But Brendan Allen does his best work on the ground and the grappling exchanges. And on the feet, he doesn't seem too comfortable. Karl Roberson should absolutely piece him up on the feet here. He doesn't. Brendan Allen doesn't really have the greatest striking defense. I think that we'll see Karl really start to put it on him with the strikes, with the kicks especially. And I think that's going to be big for him here if he's able to establish that leg kick nice and early here, like he did against Roman Kopylov. He's going to immobilize Brendan Allen. He's going to get his hands going, and then I think he can knock him out too. So I like Karl Roberson here. He's one of my few dogs on this card that I actually really like, and I think he's very live to actually knock out Brendan Allen probably in the second round. Again, I like Brendan Allen. I think he's very skilled. He made a solid career move, in my opinion, from going from Rufus Sport down to Sanford MMA, and that's going to do nothing but wonders for him. But I think stylistically, this is a bad matchup for him. The kid's only 25, right? So let's cut him a little bit of slack. But I think that there's still a lot of room for improvement here, and I feel like Karl Roberson is a little bit further ahead of the train. So I do like Roberson here. I think he's going to find the knockout. If this fight does hit the ground, I don't think he's going to be as much of a fish out of water as most people expect him to be. And then once he gets back to his feet, I think people are going to be like, oh, fuck, Brendan Allen's going to be in some shit. And I truly think that Karl Roberson is going to put it on him on the feet and put him out. Second round. I'm calling it Karl Roberson to win this fight via second round knockout. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Biggs Omega with the random stack. Canadians haven't lost back-to-back fights since in 2021. It's only been 4 months, dude, and we have like 5 Canadian fighters. It's not too hot to be a Canadian MMA fan. AG is saying fade Canadian grapplers to Americans every time. Unless it's George St. Pierre, I agree. Mr. Souza is saying, man, I already put a bet on Allen, and I'm hoping this man grapples ASAP. I had Sean Strickland last time, but now I have to have Allen. Ooh. AG is saying Allen pissed him off against Strickland. Noah is saying, comes down to Allen IQ. He can wrestle, fuck, and sub Roberson, but stands and bangs too much. I don't think it's going to be as easy as Noah's making it seem in terms of Allen getting him down and subbing him right away. I don't think that Roberson is a fish out of his back or fish out of water on his back or in the jiu-jitsu realm. The guy has some decent jiu-jitsu himself, but obviously not to the level of Allen. I know that Allen is notches above of him, but I think that people will be surprised at his ability to survive down there. I think that Allen is not as effective of a grappler as Vittori is, and obviously not as effective as a grappler as Glover is. So I think that Karl keeps this on the feet, or if he gets taken down, gets back to the feet, and then gets a striking going and eventually knocks him out. Danny Lopez is saying, is Brandon going to shoot the takedown or just get chin checked again? Probably chin checked. Brad Carmichael, Brendan Allen on this. Strickland is a vet and a beast. I think Allen wins by sub. All right. A Loomis, Karl stands up against better wrestlers than Allen. Suxar is saying Brendan Allen has been overachieving. I slightly agree with that. Pierce Hager, if Allen stands up like his dumbass did against Strickland, it's Roberson KO all day. Mr. Sosa, I don't know why most fighters go for their bread and butter. Tracy Cortez was taking so long to get the takedowns in her match versus Keisha. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I absolutely agree. It is a head scratcher for sure. Wayne Kerr with the dark comedy joke here. I'm not even going to get into that one. DPS is saying the thing about Allen is that he doesn't move his head. I agree. Not a good thing to have against a guy with a jab like Roberson. Better get to the ground quickly. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Baby K is live here. The kickboxer worries me. Yeah. Hey, Loomis. Yeah, this is my only dog. Yep. I agree. Tristan Sherhouse is saying, "Do you think Roberson will make weight?" See, that's the question here, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Tristan. So this is a spot if you're looking to bet Karl Roberson, you might want to wait to the weigh-ins. That's the spot that you think you're gonna have to see before you can truly trust him to go out there and have a solid performance. So let's see him on the scale first, and then I'll probably lock him in as a dog play, but we'll see. Big Zomega is saying, I think the chain wrestling will be a problem here. I don't think Brendan Allen's a great chain wrestler, and that's another spot that I'm glad that you brought up here. I don't think he's a great chain wrestler. Karl Roberson has some decent takedown defense, but against chain wrestling, I think that's where he gets fucked. But I don't think that's what Allen brings to the table here. SKD is saying, my new vision of Canadian MMA is Gavin Tucker slept by again 15 seconds. Hakeem Dawadu is like our only hope right now. Shout out to Hakeem Dawadu. May not be a fish out of water on the ground, but all three L's by sub, definitely Allen's best path to victory. Yeah, I agree. But like, what do you got? Vittori, you got Glover, and who's the other guy that tapped him? Was it? I want to say Kutalaba. Was it Kutalaba? No, Cesar Fajeda. Yeah, all three of those guys, in my opinion, I would take in a grappling match over Brendan Allen. Absolutely. Christian Rodriguez saying Karl Roberson by KO in round one. You're a little bit more confident in Karl than I am, but I'm with you. You guys are crazy. Okay, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Dwight Grant going up against Stefan Sekulic. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I think the line is a little bit wide, let's be honest. I think this is going to be tough for Dwight Grant to look the minus 225. Obviously, both these guys have been sparingly active. You know what I mean? We haven't seen Stefan Sekulic in over 2.5 years. When he made his UFC debut against Ramazan Ami, even comes up short in that fight. And then Dwight Grant, we've only really seen him that one time against Daniel Rodriguez. And then before that, I think was that Alan Joban fight. But it's been a long fucking time, right? It's been truly a long time since we've seen these guys active enough inside the cage. With that said, like Dwight Grant, I believe is not as high volume as I would like for a guy at minus 225, especially going up against another striker in Stefan Sekulic who could possibly go out there and out volume him. But I think the power side is going to have to be on the Grant side, right? We've seen Sekulic. He has, I believe, 1 KO loss on his record. Dwight Grant has a ton of power in his hands, but I think it's just his. Sekulic has been finished twice. One of those was actually a leg injury. So, I don't really like calling that a knockout loss, but he did get finished by punches by David Zvada about 6 years ago. Dwight Grant, solid power in his hands. Obviously, the Carlo Parasoli knockout was absolutely crazy, but it's just a volume that scares me off of Grant. So I'm not going to be super antsy to put Grant in parlays or anything like that. And I think this fight, all in all, is just a pass. Like, it's a dog or pass situation, in my opinion. Sekulic could absolutely make this a very tough fight. Like, at times you see a karate type style stance from where he's very bouncy on his feet and he, throws those like weird side kicks to the leg, blitzes in and out very well, has some good power in his hands of his own, has some good submission games as well. But I don't think we see this fight hit the ground. I think this is one that we mainly see play out on the feet. And I lean Dwight Grant just because of the power advantage. But again, the volume could truly come out and fuck people over here if you're going to look to blindly bet Dwight Grant here. So my best word of advice is stay away from this fight. If you want to be ballsy enough and take a little bit of a shot on Sekulic, I'm not going to blame you at all. But I'm just going to stay away from this fight. There's too many unknowns. Again, lack of volume from Grant, as well as lack of power from Sekulic. We don't know what we're going to see from either guy here. So I'll go Grant, possibly by KO. I'm going to say second round KO, just for prediction's sake. But I'm not a fan of this fight from a betting perspective. Even as a fan, maybe once these guys start fighting a little bit more, I'll start caring about them a little bit more. But I think Grant is going to knock him out here. But just be very, very careful betting this fight. Brad Carmichael saying DG the OG. Big Omega, this fight is going to be messy and feel like either guy can look like the favorite. Dwight, horrible striker, but it's hard, but hits hard. I agree. Sekulic can't hold guys down when he gets them down and loves to jump gilly. Yep. Christian Gut is saying Grant can only win by KO. I don't get the minus 225. I agree. Mr. Sosa is saying, is it Friday yet? We still got a couple days, my guy. Ben Peak is saying Grant is all power, not volume. Yep, I agree. So if you're making Sekulic bets, I completely understand it. Completely understand it. I believe the line is starting to close a little bit. We had Dwight Grant at minus 270 all the way down to minus 225. So the public is seeing that that concern here. Christian Rodriguez is saying Dwight Grant can get the early finish. Yep, but is that something you want to bank on at minus 225? More with less is saying Grant decision. Sekulic has a counter heavy style. Doesn't use his leg kick at range anymore after the injury. Doesn't have the tools to fight Grant at distance. How do you know he doesn't use his leg kicks at range anymore, though, right? We haven't seen him in 2.5 years. How can you confidently say that? I think the volume is on Sekulic's side. AJ is saying Sekulic is live. I agree. Big Omega, Sekulic dropped by Amiv. Yep. And Amiv's not really a crazy finisher, right? Grant inside the distance, ear regardless, is saying that. I don't mind that. Mr. Sosa, Amiva G, man, one of my favorites. Yeah, he fights a little bit too close to his level of competition, but he always comes out with the win. So can you really blame him? All right, let's move on to the next fight here. I said I didn't want to spend too much time there, and I believe this is the prelim headliner. I could be off. Let me just confirm. Yep, it is the prelim headliner. We got Randy Brown going up against Alex Oliveira. These guys were originally scheduled to fight each other. I want to get the exact date correct here. I believe it was February 27th. That was the I believe that was the Blades and Lewis card. No, that was the Rosenstrike and Gone card. They were scheduled to fight. They were forced to pull out, I believe, because Brown ended up withdrawing. I believe that was a COVID-related issue there. But interesting fight here. I just don't really know where to go, right? I actually lean Randy Brown ever so slightly. However, I believe the fight should be closer to a pick'em here. Alex Oliveira, every time you guys hear me break down this fight, I always say he's like the Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's the fucking wild card. If you guys are It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans, you guys will absolutely get that reference because you just don't know what cowboy you're going to get. Sometimes you get the Nicholas Dalby cowboy. Sometimes you get the Yancy Medeiros cowboy. And then sometimes you get the Max Griffin and Peter Sabata cowboy where he looks like a minus 250, minus 300, where he's able to go out there and, get his striking going. The Peter Sabata one was very interesting because he was pretty much just tearing up the body of Sabata with his leg kicks. The front kick up the middle was absolutely money, and he was able to really nullify the game that was coming to him from the Sabata side of things. Then we see the Rakhmonov fight, right? Tries to go for the takedown, ends up in a guillotine, and gets choked out by Rakhmonov. But that fight just didn't go long enough. I didn't think that Rakhmonov was getting too much respect from Oliveira in that fight, which is why Oliveira proceeded to fight the way that he did. But Randy Brown here, right? Like the kid's 12-4, but it's crazy that we've pretty much just seen him grow up in front of our eyes. When he came into the UFC, I believe one of his first fights was, if I'm not mistaken, he was one of those kids that actually came off the Looking for a Fight series, I believe. Yeah, he had that knee knockout on Ring of Combat back in November of 2015, and it's crazy to think that Randy Brown has been in the UFC since January of 2016, where he was able to dispose of Matt Dwyer, a fellow Canadian, and then he's had a pretty much up and down run in the UFC, right? What's his record? 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-4 inside the UFC, with losses to Mike Graves, grapple-heavy opponent, Bilal Muhammad, overall great opponent, Nico Price, that crazy finish where he had the hammer fist from the bottom position, and then Vicente Luque, just absolutely outmatched in that fight. Like, whoever the fuck allowed Randy Brown to take that fight should be shot. And that was a very, very bad fight for Randy Brown. But in this fight, I think that he has some advantages in terms of being the technically better striker. He can maintain the distance a little bit here. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage as well as an 1.5-inch reach advantage. But I think that kicking game is going to be very important for him here. My question is, if Oliveira decides to tie up with him, take him to the ground and make this a dirtier fight, how successful can Randy Brown truly be off of his back, right? He had obviously that triangle choke victory over Warlley Alves off of his back, but Wally was sucking wind by that point, right? I'm just not comfortable playing Randy Brown at minus 150, but I do favor him ever so slightly here against Cowboy, who's just starting to, start to dwindle in his progress, right? Again, the Sabato fight was great, but he was only a minus 115 favorite there, right? There's a reason, because people are starting to see the drop off in his game. He makes his fights a little bit too close. I think that Randy Brown can be truly effective on the feet here and really nullify the game of Alex Oliveira. But again, if this does get taken to the ground with Oliveira on top, I'm questioning how effective Randy Brown can truly be off of his back and how well he can get back to his feet. I have to give the ever so slight cardio advantage to Randy Brown here. But then again, his last 4 fights have been finishes. I believe he finished Brian Barberena late. So he finished Barberena in the 3rd round. So that's a good look for him there. Cowboy Oliveira does seem to slow down at times, but then he looks great in the Max Griffin and Peter Sabato fights, where he's able to just keep that same pace up over fucking 3 rounds. It's insane. So I ever so slightly lean Randy Brown here, but this fight's going to be a complete pass for me. I'll go Randy Brown via decision, not with the utmost confidence here. All right, let's see what the chat is saying, then we can continue to move on. Big Omega saying Randy inside the distance. That is sneaky. A. Loomis did say Grant might be a sneaky DK play. I do agree there. I do agree, because if he gets a knockout, right, he's gonna score a lot of points for sure. AG saying wild card bitches. Hell yeah, for sure. Christian Gut, lock in the night, fellow Torontonian here. Which MMA gym you train at? I actually used to work at Grant's MMA, or I believe now it's called Head Rush. They changed it to Head Rush Training Center. Or you know what? So I worked there for about 2 years, and they changed the name a couple times. But I believe the last time I left, it was Rival Boxing Toronto, Grants MMA. That's where I used to be at. And that was in the York region. Irregardless of saying love Oliveira plus money here. I don't blame you. Alex Ramirez in the chat. What's going on, my brother? Brad Carmichael, I'm probably shaking that pie. Mystic Souls, I'll take the man that has to feed 14 kids and the one that runs with horses, like he said. Yeah, I'm right there. Yeah, Oliveira just, again, wild card as wild card as it gets. No, I want no part of this fight. What if Oliveira misses weight again? I might fade him. Good luck. Yeah, good point there. Good point. Big Omega, maybe he comes out hungry here. He's got 14 kids to feed. Some solutions. So how many lock picks do you have for the last fight card? I only ever give out 1 lock of the night play. And the last one was Tracy Cortez. Sex God is saying, why would anybody be on Oliveira here? I see it overwhelming in Brown's favor. Oliveira isn't even motivated. So many question marks on this fight. So many question marks. Sex God is saying Brown should be like minus 250. Wow. That's a lot of confidence. Some solution. Badman. General Randy Rude Boy Brown. Christian saying I like the value on Rodriguez's side or Oliveira's side. Kane Gomes saying he paused his anime for this. I haven't watched anime since like Dragon Ball Z back in the day. That's the only shit that I watched. MB is saying put your life savings on Wally Zhang. Never put your life savings on anything. A. Loomis, Brown's not soft, lasts longer than Woodley. Yeah, good point. Good point. Chris Ludd for Rose, Namajunas via submission, Valentina Shevchenko via decision, Usman via decision. That is very ballsy, my man. Fun fact, Alex Oliveira has never been knocked out. Did he not lose via TKO to Yancy Medeiros? Or did he get subbed there? Yeah, he got TKO by Yancy Medeiros. If you mean he's never been knocked out cold. Yeah, I get that. More or less, Luke and Bilal beat Brown the same way by sitting on calf kicks. Oliveira likes to fight in the open space, which favors Brown. Yeah, I agree. Troy Brown looking to the over on this one. Yeah, that's not a bad approach. Let's see what that actually looks like. Over 2.5, minus 130. And again, you got the wild card in Alex Oliveira that could fuck that shit up. Brad Carmichael, I think Masvidal. Okay, I'm not going to get into those yet. The interim view is saying Oliveira is a liability. I agree. I absolutely agree. All right. We are moving on to the main card here now. I believe we are going to the main card. Yes, we are. But before we do that, I do want to let you guys know about the Dog of the Night Challenge. If you guys haven't heard about the Dog of the Night Challenge, it is a challenge that I run over 10 UFC events. Pretty much you pick one underdog play for 10 UFC events. Whoever accumulates the most amount of profit in that amount of time gets paid out if you end up in the top three. Now, last time around, or the current game that's just about to finish up, we have 34 participants in the $25 game and 14 participants in the $100 game. Currently, those numbers are starting to go up. I got a lot of love coming in from Twitter right now. The deadline is Sunday, so if you're interested in this, make sure you guys hit me up through Twitter at MMALOTN on Twitter. Again, it's a very fun game. I have the Lock of the Night Challenge as well, which has over like 70 people in the $25 game. We have like 30, 40 people in the $100 game. And I'm expecting the Dog of the Night Challenge to get to those numbers as well. Very fun game, very easy to play. You do it through my website, but you have to sign up through my Twitter first. So make sure you guys DM me through Twitter if you guys are interested in this. Again, you pick one underdog, and that's either a fighter or a plus money play on the over-under of a fight. So I'm talking about over under 1.5, as long as it's better than plus 100. Very, very easy to play. Very, very easy to have, make some money, right? I've paid out over, I want to say $5,000 or $6,000 now through the Dog of the Night Challenge and putting these pools together. I wish I had the actual amount here for you guys. You know what? Let me just pull it up. Let me just pull it up for you guys here so you guys can see it. So you guys can kind of see. Hold up. There we go. So yeah, just quick rules here. It only goes over UFC events. It's going to be for 10 events, starting with the May 1st event. You can only make one bet per event. You're allocated up to 3 units per event. So you can put 1 unit, 2 unit, or 3 units on that one bet of yours, depending on how confident you are in it. You must submit a bet for every single event. It can only be a straight money line or a total. Bet must be better than plus 100. The rest of it pretty much just goes through the process of how you submit your bet. But like, I have the Hall of Champions here. We've done 4 editions. The 5th one is just about to wrap up. So the last one, the $100 game, I paid out $975 to the first person guy. The way I split it up is 65%, 25%, and 10%. In terms of the pot, I keep none of the pot. The pot goes directly back to the top 3 guys. So that was the $100 game last time around. The $25 game paid out $633 to first place, $243 to second, $97. Like, I've been doing it for a long time now, and you guys obviously get the standings here. Very, very fun game to play. Very easy to play. My guy here, MMA Wizard, has the record right now. He went 9-1 on events for a plus 35.8 units. Absolutely crazy run that he went on. I wish I still had the bets that he made for that, but absolutely insane run that he went, and it was absolutely crazy. But yeah, hit me up through Twitter, hit me up through IG. I'm seeing a couple people here also saying that they don't have Twitter. Let me just see what the chat's saying here real quick if there's anybody. But again, if you do have Twitter, hit me up at MMALOTN. I'll get you guys signed up if it's something that you're interested in. Luke Fulton asking here, what if we don't have Twitter? Can we still participate? Twitter is my easiest way to communicate with everybody. So that's the best way to kind of line things up. So 1, if it's not too hard for you guys, make a Twitter account and then DM me. 2, if you have Instagram is another way that you can contact me. Just slide in my DMs there at MMALOTN. If not, hit me up through email. Hit me up through email, MMALOTN@gmail.com, and I'll get you set up. Luke Fulter, I've never used Twitter, but would love to try it. Yeah, it's very easy. Very, very easy to use. Oh, yeah, I've never used Twitter, but I want to try the challenge. Yeah, it's a fun challenge for sure. Ben Peak, I know you're on the Patreon. Hit me up through the Patreon chat. Hit me up through the Discord, and I'll get you signed up. SKD, likewise, I don't have Twitter, not trying to get canceled, but would love to play. Yeah, Instagram at MMALOTN, Twitter at MMALOTN, or email MMALOTN@gmail.com, and I'll get you guys signed up. Ty Druck and Homie at minus 22 units at the bottom. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that have been whiffing too. So like you go into negative units and then have to dig yourself out of the hole if you're able to. But it's awesome. Oh, look at this guy. Biggs Omega is in first as well. Shout out to my guy, Biggs Omega. He is in first place in the current event, the current game that's going on right now. So he might get paid out a nice little check on Saturday night if he actually maintains that top spot. Ben Peak, yes, you are in the Discord as well. All right, let's get back to the breakdowns here again. Dog of the Night Challenge. Sunday is the deadline. So you have to hit me up before Sunday, and then we get the next game going. All right? All right, let's get back into the breakdowns now. So main card time, we got... First fight up, Anthony Smith versus Jimmy Crute. Now, I was initially puzzled by the line, right? Minus 190 for Jimmy Crute, 25 years old, going up against the veteran Anthony Smith, who, another edition of how the fuck is Anthony Smith only 32 years old when you have 50 fights? This is going to be his 51st fight that he's coming into this weekend with. And he's pretty much fought the who's who in this division at 185 and 205. But we see the guys that are most successful are the ones that are grapple heavy, unless your name is Devin Clark, right? Devin Clark can't, stop a submission off his back for anything, apparently. So good win for Anthony Smith to bounce back from that 2-fight losing streak he was on. But Jimmy Crute brings so much more to the table here, right? He's going to be slightly undersized here, but I think he's going to have the wrestling advantage in terms of getting this fight to the ground and truly getting his game going. And I think that's going to be the detriment to Anthony Smith's night here. I think that Anthony Smith is going to struggle getting his jiu-jitsu game going, as Jimmy Crute is a very solid jiu-jitsu player himself. Jimmy Crute, with the youth advantage here, possibly the strength advantage too, I think he's going to really wear on Anthony Smith. I'd give Smith the slight advantage on the feet here, even though that Jimmy Crute is coming off a beautiful knockout victory over Modestas Bukauskas last time around. I still do favor Jimmy Crute here to get the takedowns and grind this fight out. I'd be very surprised if we see Anthony Smith actually pull off a submission of his own. Even though that Jimmy Crute does have one submission loss on his record, Misha Serkinov is an absolute wizard on the ground, and I believe it was a Peruvian necktie that he actually submitted Jimmy Crute with. There's no way in hell that I'm going to see Anthony Smith right now pull out a Peruvian necktie out of his ass. So I do like Crute here. I think he is that rightful side. I think he is the rightful favorite. It's just his cardio. Is it going to be able to keep up if he doesn't finish Anthony Smith? And will he be able to do this for 15 minutes? That is still to be seen. But I do favor him to win this fight. And I do think he's the rightful favorite. And I'll take him to win this fight to grind down Anthony Smith over 15 minutes. Average Joe is saying, I feel like if Jimmy doesn't gas, he will easily beat Smith. I agree. Jeremy Erickson is saying Smith still got heat, dude. He's live. Yeah. Jimmy Crute's chin has been pretty good though, right? Like, is Smith gonna knock him out? That's the question. Is he gonna be able to pull off a submission off his back? I just don't think so. I think Devin Clark is just so stiff on top of guys that Smith was able to pull off that submission, right? The way he set it up was pretty interesting, right? I don't think that Jimmy Crute's gonna get caught with something like that. So I do like Crute here, either by TKO or by decision. I'll ultimately go with decision. Smith is a tough out. He is tough to get out of there. He took a shit kicking from Glover for a long time in that fight and then eventually got put out later in the fight, but this is only a 3-rounder. The interim view, Smith, another liability. I agree. TJ Kill, Jimmy said in an interview, Smith prop got the BJJ advantage. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to play mind games with him. Who knows? Ben Peak got Jim by decision or Anthony straight here with the third round prop finish. The wrestling of Jim is stopping me going with Smith ultimately. Ultimately, and I'm assuming that's what you mean. But yeah. Again, the cardio is my question mark here. Hey, Loomis, I like Crute, such a great fighter. One of my favorite fighters, very well rounded. I agree, and he's young still. He has a lot of room to grow. Alex Ramirez has Crute by second round TKO. I like it. Ty Drucken is saying, love this fight, but Crute's tank concerns me. What's the over 1.5? That's a good point. Let's see what they have that lined at. Over 1.5 is minus 170. I don't think that's a bad line. I don't think that's a bad line at all. George Metaxopoulos, I have a gut feeling that Crute gets the TKO, but the best play is decision. Yeah, decision line is going to be very nice too. Goes to decision is plus 145. Not a bad plus money spot. All right, let's keep the train moving along here. Next up, we got Chris Weidman against Uriah Hall. And this is actually a rematch of a fight that took place years ago when these guys were still on the regional scene. I'll give you guys the exact date of when that actually went down. But in So it was Uriah Hall's 5th pro fight. It was Chris Weidman's 3rd pro fight, and that took place in September of 2010 at Ring of Combat 31, where Chris Weidman was able to get him out of there with punches in round 1. Now they've both had an illustrious career since then. Chris Weidman obviously achieving the middleweight strap and then quickly losing it thereafter, and then Uriah Hall has just been, should I say it? He's been a bust, right? He came off the Ultimate Fighter as having all this hype and all this steam behind him. You know, Dana White saying this is one of the scariest guys we've ever had in the UFC. And then he loses his first fight after the Ultimate Fighter to Kelvin Gastelum. And he goes out there and loses a split to John Howard right after. And like all the zest just goes off of Uriah Hall's name, right? A lot of people are down on him, don't think he really has much to offer to the game. Then he goes out there and puts out a 3-fight winning streak over Chris Lieben, Thiago Santos, and then the choir boy, Ronald Stallings. I believe I was at that fight. Yeah, that was McGregor receiver in Boston. I was at that fight. And then loses to Rafael Natal. So when he takes these huge steps up in competition, he just ends up falling on his face. Robert Whittaker, Derek Brunson, Gegard Mousasi, even though he knocked out Gegard Mousasi the first fight, everybody can agree that was a fluke knockout. And then his next loss, Paulo Costa. He's been able to put together 3 solid wins, very close fight against Antonio Carlos Jr. 2 fights ago, and then obviously main evented against Anderson Silva last time. If that was a 3-rounder, Anderson Silva wins that fight 2-1. But luckily for Uriah Hall, it was a 5-rounder main event, and he was able to knock him out in that 3rd round or that 4th round. He dropped him in the 3rd round and then finished him in the 4th round. And now stylistically with this fight, very tough one, right? I think the line is starting to move towards Chris Weidman's. Yeah, minus 125, plus 105 now. So the line has moved a little bit since I made the graphic for this fight. I kind of understand it, right? Are people all of a sudden just going to completely forget about the chin of Chris Weidman? Is that what's happening? Is he going to go out there and grapple fuck Omari Akhmadov, win 2-1 and that fight, and now people think that he's going to go out there and grapple fuck Uriah Hall? I see the angle a little bit, but Uriah Hall still has a ton of power in his punches and his hands. The question mark here, though, for Hall is he's a slow starter, so more than likely he's probably going to give up the first round. And secondly, his volume isn't the greatest. But why do you need volume when you could potentially just knock a guy out with one punch? I still think that Weidman is hella chinny. So if Hall was able to land cleanly enough on him, I think Hall knocks him out. With that said, I wouldn't play the money line here on Hall. I think the approach for Hall would be to play the knockout prop, plus 215. That's the best value you're going to get, because I think that Weidman is still good enough of a wrestler to take Hall down and control him there. Carlos Jr. had some good time in terms of holding the back of Hall, but I think that, I don't know. I think that at this point in time, ACJ's jiu-jitsu would be better than Chris Weidman's. But I think that Weidman's top pressure in his wrestling could be a little bit too much for Hall here. But if Hall keeps getting back to his feet, and if Weidman starts to slow down, he seemed like he was slowing down a little bit in that second round, but luckily was able to get that takedown in the 3rd and then secure the fight there. So great second win for him. I'm not sure if he just took that second round off, but if his cardio starts to fill him ever so slightly and his takedowns are not coming to him, it's going to be dangerous as fuck when you got Uriah Hall on the feet, who has crazy firepower. It's just his volume. It's just his willingness to accept what's going on in the cage and not really assert himself. And that's what's scaring me off here from Hall. I'm still going to take Hall to win by KO here, as that's the line that I lean strongest to. But it's just so tough to back him nowadays, right? It's lack of, like I said, lack of output, lack of volume is very much concerning here. But I truly believe that Chris Weidman's chin is absolutely shot. So I'm going Weidman by knockout, or sorry, Hall by knockout here. But this could absolutely be Weidman racking up 2 rounds and then surviving the 3rd and then taking home the decision victory. His grappling will look very good here, but how well is he going to do in terms of holding Uriah Hall down? I'm not 100% sure. All in all, I'll pass on this fight. If I'm going to have any action on it, it would be Hall at plus 210 to win by knockout. But that's about it. All right, let's see what the chat is saying here. Ty Drucken is saying Weidman versus Hall. This is the shit right here. Could be. Biggest Omega's saying interesting. Uriah Hall last 3 wins against guys not in the UFC anymore, and Weidman got chin issues. I lean Weidman, oddly enough. Regardless is saying I wouldn't touch this fight, but I'm on Hall. If he wins, he can call for a title shot. Ooh, it'd be a 4-fight winning streak, but I don't think they'd give it to him. George Metacox, I will fuck that one up. I apologize. The first fight was nuts. Ally Quinto was in the crowd as well, rooting for Weidman. Very hyped concerning it was on the regional scene. Yeah, it's been a long, long time since that fight. Over 11 years now. Hey, Loomis is passing on this. I don't blame you. More with less. In order for Hall to win this fight, he needs to punch Weidman in the face. I think he'll be able to do that. Ty Drucken, wish I took Weidman at plus money, but figured money would come in on a Hall because of the casuals seeing the highlight reel, but still good odd. Though, yeah. If you think that Weidman can handle the power of Hall, if you think that he can stay alive, if you think that he can stay conscious, then yeah, take Weidman. The line is great. I just think that Hall lands a punch on him and knocks him out. George is saying the TKO is no brainer. Yeah, I wouldn't play Hall straight here. Ruslan Holovikin is saying odds on Hall outright are good enough. KO prop is too risky. I don't see him winning a decision, right? I think if Weidman manages to stay alive for 15 minutes, it's going to be because his wrestling is bailing him out of staying out of the striking exchanges with Uriah. And if Uriah is able to stay on the feet for 15 minutes with Weidman, I think he pieces him up. Again, the output is a little bit of a concern, but I think he'd be able to land a big enough shot in those 15 minutes to put out Weidman. Travis Tara reminding you guys, please hit that like. Please do. We got over 160 people in here, and we're at 67 likes. And apparently 4 disgruntled people. Maybe you're mad that I was a little bit late. That's fine. It's all good. Here we go. More with less. Hall inside the distance. Scorecards, no action. That's the bet. What is that line? Because that, in my opinion, that's the line. Minus 155. I like it. I'd be very surprised if Weidman finishes Hall. Yep, Biggs Omega is agreeing with it now. Ben Peak is saying this fight is going to be a draw. I hope not. Marcus Williams, I love Hall's price against Weidman. Alicio Zendejas is saying Hall is the most frustrating fighter to watch on the roster. Yeah, I agree. Jared Garrett, social anxiety, saying you need to throw punches in order to land punches. I agree. Yeah, see, that's the concern, the volume. But I think he has enough of that one-punch knockout power. Just ask Bevan Lewis and ask those Christoph Jotko. Ask all those guys that were beating Uriah Hall up until the point they got knocked the fuck out. And Chris Weidman, I still think his chin is shaky as fuck. All right, let's move on to the championship fights here now. First up, we got Valentina Shevchenko against Jessica Andrade. Very interesting fight here. Minus 390 for Shevchenko, plus 320 for Jessica Andrade. I like Valentina in this spot. Now, Jessica Andrade, obviously, she looked like an absolute killer the last time around, where she was able to cripple Qileng Chookagian via KO, body shots, beautiful rip to the body. She looks like a murderer there, right? And then they immediately vault her into a title shot, considering that there's nobody else really that's lined up to take a title shot right now, or is willing, or deserves a title shot per se. So Jessica Andrade has the name. Obviously, 3 fights ago, she was the 115-pound champion. The momentum was swinging in her favor. The last time out against Rose Namajunas, unfortunately, it was too little, too late. And then Qileng Chookagian, she dispatches of her very quickly. So she's a very intimidating woman, right? A ton of power. Moves forward, seems quite durable outside of that Weili Zhang complete demolishment that she had. But her game just never changes, right? It's just moving forward. Her head movement has gotten better, if anything. But outside of that, it's just still winging hooks, crashing forward, and trying to, put the biggest shots on you and land the hardest punches to hopefully put you out or incapacitate you. It seemed like she was going for grappling a little bit more in that Qileng Chookagian fight. I'd be surprised if that's what her approach is here with Shevchenko. And a lot of people are going to look at that second round for Jennifer Maia against Shevchenko, where Maia was able to get on top of Valentina, and it didn't look like Valentina had much answers in terms of getting back to her feet. But if you guys remember, she has a solid jiu-jitsu game of her own, right? She tapped Juliana Pena very, very surprisingly when they had headlined their card a couple years ago at this point in time. But nobody thought that Shevchenko was going to win via submission in that fight. Everybody's like either Pena by submission or Valentina by knockout or decision. And she pulls out a fucking armbar out of her ass against Juliana Pena, I should say. So I'd be surprised if Andrade is successful in terms of banking 3 rounds of just control time. I think Valentina will do a decent enough job in terms of maintaining the distance, landing her spinning kicks, landing her kicks up the middle. She has this like super static movement. Like she's like a ball of of energy, just bouncing and waiting to explode at times. And when she does, she's very quick with it, right? She closes distance very well. She lands her strikes from the distance very well. She gets in and out very well. And then even in her last couple of fights, we've seen her implement her ground game. So even if she wants to take this fight to the ground and kind of just lay on Andrade and kind of just, stifle her that way, I think that's something that she could absolutely do here. Andrade is a tank of a woman, right? Don't get me wrong. Fought at 135 for a while, went down to 115, and now back up to 125. And I still think that Shevchenko could have the slight strength advantage here. I think she'll be able to, she muscled most of her takedowns in her Maya and Chukagian fights, but I think that it will still work out for her here against Jessica Andrade. And then on the feet, I think it looks similar to Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Andrade to a certain extent, given, Jędrzejczyk seems to move a little bit more and have a little bit more output than Valentina. But I think that Valentina has the more impactful shots, and I truly think that she can hurt Andrade on the feet here. Andrade is a great hammer, but she's not a good nail, just as we saw in the Weili Zhang fight. And, who's the next toughest person at 125 than Andrade? It's the GOAT of 125 pounds, and that's Valentina Shevchenko. So I really like what Shevchenko brings to the table. I think she's going to pretty much beat her anywhere this fight goes. The only concern is if Valentina does struggle with the possible control time that Andrade might be able to accrue with, some cage clinch or getting this fight to the ground. But I think that Shevchenko is going to be very ready for it, and I think she's going to make Andrade pay for it quite a lot. I think they have a great game plan going into this fight to nullify the game, the one-dimensional-ish game of Jessica Andrade. It works out for her so much, which is why she's able to get high-level wins like Rose Namajunas and Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Katlyn Chookagian. This is Valentina Shevchenko we're talking about. There's a reason she's close to that minus 400 range, and that's why I'm picking Shevchenko to win this fight. I don't know if she gets the finish. I'm going to take her to win by decision. She's going to have to play this one a little bit safer, stay away from the big power of Andrade, but that's maintaining distance or being nice and close to her, getting the takedowns, overwhelming her in the clinch. But I do like Valentina to win this fight via decision. George is saying Valentina by murder. Ty Drucken is saying this is the start of my lock parlay, as weird as that is to say. I got Val, Usman, and Zhang all straight, no props at plus 140. One of my most confident parlays I've ever paid money on. I don't blame you. Irregardless of saying, how big did you go on Val lock? She should take her out. No, I really like her. I really like her. I will agree with most of you guys. I really like her in this spot. George is saying that's my lock parlay as well. SKD, Andrade is too predictable. Shevchenko will slice her up methodically. Yeah, I agree. Like, again, the only evolution we've truly seen in Andrade's game since like that Joanna and Jędrzejczyk fight is like she moves her head a little bit more. That's really about it. A Loomis is saying I got Usman, Val, and Zhang at plus 230. That is a crazy line. You must have locked it in nice and early. MMA Genie in the house. What's going on, my guy? TJ Kill, Valentina will look really good in this fight. I agree. SKD, regardless, I know you didn't ask us, but big. All right. Trent is saying we did see Valentina get taken down and held down for a round last fight. Again, that was, and it wasn't even a takedown from Maya. It was a botched takedown attempt from Shevchenko. Like, she lands the exact same takedown and doesn't make the mistake of giving up the position to Jennifer Maya that time. But it was more of a mistake on Shevchenko's part, which cost her getting taken down there. Like, she, just go back and watch that. Happened in the second round. And then at the ending of the third round, Shevchenko lands the same takedown, but completes it that time. But yeah, it is a little bit of a concern. I will agree, but I don't think that's enough to truly say that, okay, she's going to lose this fight. That's the only chink in her armor we've truly seen outside of the Amanda Nunes fights. DXJC is saying might be risky, but I'm feeling a three-legger with all the over 4.5s. I hate overs, man. I absolutely hate overs. George is saying Valentina can definitely finish her. Hopefully she goes for it. Last time she tried to prove a point that she cannot grapple the grappler. Hopefully we see her killer instinct on display here. If she finishes Andrade, that would be amazing. That would be very, very good. That would be very cool. A Loomis, never mind. Got Usman, Valen, Zhang at plus 130. Yeah, that sounds a little bit more right. TG Killer is saying Jorge not losing. All right. And T is saying Valentina wins. Don't be foolish. I agree. Old boy is saying Valentina minus 390. I just quickly looked right now. She's like minus 400-ish. I put this graphic together yesterday. Cut me some slack. God. Pony Small for Chukagin was doing a good job stuffing on Andrade's takedowns and getting back up until the KO. Yeah. She's doing pretty well. I agree. Ruslan Holovakin is saying Shevchenko by finish seems value. Andrade just walks forward. Yeah, but she's tough, man. That's my concern here. I'm not 100% sure Shevchenko will get the finish. This fight, I'm truly mystified regarding the method of victory. Biggs Omega's got a weird feeling about a sub, possibly. Ty Drucken, Maya's fucking Huzo, and after that, Val never really do it again. Great job on the fight changes. Yeah, I agree. All right, so I got Val by Du Zhang. All right, let's move on to the co-main event now. We got Weili Zhang or Zhang Weili, however you want to go with it, defending her belt against Rose Namajunas in this fight. Man, this is easily the fight that I'm most excited for, right? This is the most closely contested fight out of the three title fights that we got. And Rose is live, in my opinion. However, I'm still ultimately going to go with Zhang Weili here. Now, Rose technically looks amazing, right? Her footwork looks good. If you go back and watch the second fight with Ioana Jędrzejczyk, like she's just beating her to the punch. She's doing a lot of good work from the outside. And whenever she does enter and land those shots, Ioana Jędrzejczyk isn't really ready for it, or she's just exiting on her own, but still getting clipped with a couple shots. Last time around, we saw her go out there and beat Jessica Andrade over. She did win the first 2 rounds and then was starting to get lit up in that third round. And it seemed like her cardio was coming into play there, but that could also be due to the fact that she was coming off a little bit of a layoff. Not a crazy layoff, but a little bit of a layoff, right? I believe she lost her title at UFC 237 to Jessica Andrade and then didn't come back until UFC 251. Yeah, the first Andrade fight, right? It's crazy. She comes into that fight defending her title as a plus 120 dog, and she puts on a solid clinic up until she got smashed through the canvas. And then she comes back in the second fight as a minus 240 favorite. Like, how often do you see that where the fighter losing comes back as an even heavier favorite in their next fight? But it was for good reason, right? We saw how it plays out if this fight did go a full 15 minutes, and that was Rose Namajunas winning the fight over the first 10 minutes and then going out there and pulling off a decision victory. Again, the momentum was starting to swing in Andrade's favor. The one thing I noticed about a lot of Rose's fights is that, like, when she's hitting her opponents are not really accepting in terms of throwing a proper counter, or not really accepting in terms of standing their ground and letting their punches go. And that's where I think the change comes here with Zhang Weili, who is just so dead set on showcasing that she's the one that's going to be standing her ground and always getting the last word in or last shots in these pocket exchanges. I do like what we see from her, right? She has solid striking. She has great combinations. Zhang Weili throws great leg kicks and then follows up with punches on the back end. Whereas more often than not with fighters, you'll notice that they throw their punches first and then they finish off with leg kicks. It seems like Zhang does the complete opposite, and she's just as effective, if not more effective. Her takedown defense seems solid. Her jiu-jitsu seems solid. Obviously, having a submission victory over Jessica Aguilar a couple fights ago, but then again, Jessica Aguilar was like 57 years old at that point in time. But Zhang has shown a solid jiu-jitsu game or a solid overall MMA game throughout her UFC career now. Right, she's 5-0 in the UFC up to this point. She's won the title now. She had a great performance against Ioana last time. And even though it was a split decision, I think she did a really good job in terms of kind of cementing that decision by landing the more impactful and better shots. Right, she's throwing great combinations. And not only is she throwing combinations, she's throwing great power in those combinations. Her cardio looks good too, right? The commentators are starting to say that maybe she's starting to slow down in the third round, and then she comes back and has an amazing fifth round where she's really laying it on Ioana Jędrzejczyk. I just ultimately think it's going to be the more impactful shots that are coming from Zhang, and then Rose is not going to be able to get out of the way as much and really get her technical game going once she's fighting a Zhang who's just going to be standing her ground in the pocket and waiting for Rose to close that distance and get her shots going. Another aspect of this fight that I think that not a lot of people are talking about is in that second fight with Ioana Jędrzejczyk for Rose, Ioana was very successful with the leg kicks, and it started to slow down Rose the later that the fight went. Right, we saw her movement not as much as it was in the first 3 rounds, and you saw that Ioana was just staying relentless on that lead leg kick, and that's something that I see that Zhang will probably be able to take advantage of here in this fight too. And I believe that would be the smart thing to do, right? Rose is very mobile. That's how she's able to get in and out of exchanges without taking too much damage, because more often than not, she's a taller and lankier and rangier fighter in her fights. The Jessica Andrade fight is a perfect example of that. But I think that Zhang will lay on that lead leg. I think she will try to immobilize her and then start letting her hands go a little bit later in this fight. Ultimately, I'm going to be taking Zhang to win this fight inside the distance. I don't think that Rose is going to be able to hang with that power. I think once she feels that power, she's not going to be as content with moving forward and throwing her own game. But I think that's where Zhang starts to take over. So I'm going to take Zhang by third or fourth round TKO. I think the longer that this fight goes, the more that it benefits Zhang, because that means that her combinations are going to start adding up, and the power is definitely going to be on the Zhang side here. I will say, though, out of the 3 title fights, this is the one where the underdog has the most bark, in my opinion. But Zhang is just such a competitive fighter, 21-1. She's 31 years old still, so she's in the prime of her career. And I think that we're going to see her go out there and get another solid victory over another high-level opponent here in Rose Namajunas. So I'm going Weili Zhang, Weili, to win this fight by third or fourth round TKO. I love her in the spot. Let's see what people are saying here. Gunny in the chat saying Usman, Valentina, Zhang, the last 3 legs in my parlay from last week. I like it. I like it. Ruslan is saying Masvidal, Usman 2, going to be exact same shit fight. You guys are still talking about the last fight. Let's see. Fernando Cuna is saying Weili Zhang seems like a lock of the night, solid bet. I think she wins, but I'd be hard pressed to call her a lock of the night for this card. Robert, second fight, Rose got fucked up. George is saying, did Rose train full time with Trevor Whitman? I've seen footage of her training in her hometown gym as well. I'm pretty sure they split the time, but I'd be very surprised if Trevor Whitman is not in her corner. Irregardless of saying, I'm highly confident in Usman and Val. Zhang is never a bad play, but I saw JJ beat her and I don't give a shit about jet lag. Big Omega, I like Zhang. The longer it goes, the better she will look. I agree. Rose going to get her leg kicked off. Zhang underrated grappler too. Big Omega, get out of my head. This guy's giving me the exact same. Noah saying Triple Champ parlay will probably be most popular play. Yeah. This is the fight, though, I think would bust most parlays. But I still think that Zhang wins. Ty Drucken is saying, I just don't think Rose has the power of BJJ or technical ability to beat Zhang. I think it will be a competitive, but Zhang will be the clear winner, maybe 49-46, if not 50-45. I can see that too. Wael is saying, if Rose gets taken down, no way she can get back up. Now, Rose is quite crafty off of her back. It's been a long time since we've truly seen her off of her back, since the Michelle Watterson fight. But she's very crafty, has solid jiu-jitsu. I'd be very surprised if Zhang decides to take this fight to the ground. Inc. 4K is saying Zhang is just built different. Rose always moaning. SKD is saying locking the champ parlay tonight. Lines are moving as we speak. Yeah, I believe if that's the play you guys want to go for, you want to do it sooner than later because I think that line is going to get crazy. Regardless of saying Usman and Val parlay is the lock of the night, adding Zhang is way too risky to screw up that sure bet. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Austin Johnson likes me some Rose here. I don't mind it. Again, I think she's the livest dog out of all the championship fights. Genius saying, my brother Locke, you got to put in the work with tapes. They're not all about graphics. My brothers, relax and take notes. What do you think I do? Why do you think I do this shit full time? God. Genie, you're really getting on my bad side nowadays. You got a little bit too much attitude for a 13-year-old. God, I love that everyone loves Usman, thinking it will be a rerun. It definitely not. We'll see. Gunny is saying Usman is a lock of the night. I never play something straight up minus anything worse than minus 350. Just saying. Biggs, oh my God, she was on her back versus on jaw, or was that her head? I agree. All right, let's move on to the main event here. We're getting close to that 2-hour mark, and I don't want to get over that. I do want to celebrate that 420 day with you guys. All right, main event here. We got Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal rematch. The rematch that nobody ever wanted. Nobody ever wanted this rematch, but we're getting it regardless. For some reason, people believe that Jorge Masvidal is going to have more of a chance if he's able to put in 6 weeks of camp compared to the 6 days that he currently apparently had. I absolutely believe that's bullshit. They were negotiating to have the Usman fight against Jorge at Fight Island. They, during that time, Masvidal was training, may not be specifically for the fight, well, actually specifically for the fight, but not with the intent on having an actual date to compete on. They do not come to an agreement on the numbers. Gilbert Burns steps in, and then Gilbert Burns eventually has to pull out. They call Jorge Masvidal's number. I bet they ended up, I bet they ended up, reasoning with Masvidal and actually taking him up on his number to save that card. But with that said, I don't think anything changes here. Now, Jorge Masvidal just, I don't know why people think he's turned some sort of corner, right? Great wins over Darren Till and Ben Askren, but of course he's going to beat Nate Diaz, right? Then he goes out there and loses against guys that he's just not going to beat. Kamaru Usman, Stephen Thompson. There's fights where he's just too lackadaisical. We just saw it last time around too, right? I don't get the Jorge Masvidal love. He doesn't have this crazy knockout power. Kamaru Usman shows great durability. A lot of people would think that he got hurt, rocked, and he was close to being finished in the first round against Gilbert Burns. But watch that fight, man. That was a great, perfectly timed, perfect precision shot from Gilbert Burns to hurt Usman. And obviously Usman went down to his hands and then he was right back at it. But he was firm. Joe Rogan was saying he was wobbly. He was not wobbly, man. He was ready to go. He was fully aware of what was happening. He didn't look like he was on the brink of being finished, at least in my eyes. And I would highly suggest you guys go back and watch that again. Kamaru, he recovered very solidly. I don't think that he was hurt as much as people were expecting him or thinking that he was hurt at that time, especially watching it live, right? Tensions are high, blah, blah, blah. But go back and watch that and you guys will know exactly what I mean. Regardless, we're seeing improvements in his striking. I'd be very surprised if he goes out there and tries to strike at Masvidal, because I wouldn't say that's what he's going to do. I wouldn't think that's the smartest path to victory for him here. I think the smartest path to victory is doing exactly what we did last time. Go out there, grapple fuck him, push him up against the cage, take him down if he's able to, just overpower him. Usman knows how to win fights. There's a reason the guy's 18-1. He has the two best things that you need in MMA. His cardio, because he can go 25 hard minutes doing the exact same game plan that he needs to do and be effective with it. And two, he has the wrestling and the clinch work. Those are the two things. You have those two core factors in your foundation, you're going to be more successful than you're not. And Kamaru Usman is a great example of that, being 18-1. I truly think the only challenge that he has is Colby Covington, who was pretty much, that fight was split down the middle going into that fifth round. Then he finishes him in the fifth round. But I would love to see those guys go back at it again, as I believe those are the only two guys that are going to be holding the title for the next couple of years, however long that they're able to compete. Khamzat Chimaev, maybe that guy throws a wrench into their plans, but we don't know how truly good that guy is until he steps in the cage with legitimate competition. With that said, I still think that Kamaru Usman goes out there, wins this fight. It's going to look the same. I don't think he overextends himself to try to knock out Jorge. I don't think he overextends himself to try to submit Jorge, but I think he's just going to go out there and do the exact same thing. Foot stomps 2.0. That's all that's going to matter. Jorge might have a little bit more in the tank and he might be a little bit more successful in that first round, but I don't see it ultimately coming to a knockout. And I think he's going to struggle with the power and the clinch work of Usman. And it's still going to be a 50-45 or a 49-46 here for Kamaru. So I'm on the Kamaru train. He's absolutely worth the juice, in my opinion. I would be more willing to play him in a parlay rather than, play him straight at minus 420. And there's a couple other good parlayable spots on this card that we've already gone over. And I think that Usman is a very, very solid play here. This fight is not going to be any different than the first fight. If anything, we might see Jorge give us a little bit more in that first fight. But that power, that cardio, that wrestling, that pace, that pressure, it's all going to catch up to Jorge, and Usman's going to start to take over this fight the longer this fight goes. So I got Kamaru Usman. I'm going to say he wins this fight by decision. Even though he finished Gilbert Burns last time around, Jorge is very durable. He has decent cardio of his own, and he does a good job of, not getting finished. Let's see when the last time Jorge was finished, because I don't even know if he's ever been finished. Other than the Toby Imada weird, that inverted triangle that he got subbed with. So he got knocked out once and subbed twice. The last time he suffered a loss via finish was Imada. It's been over 12 years, close to 12 years since he got that technical submission loss, inverted triangle choke to Toby Imada. He got finished by Rodrigo way back in 2008 by punches, and then Paul Rodriguez by submission as well. So the guy's been around. It's crazy the amount of people that he's been fighting, but it's not going to happen. There is no Cinderella story here. Kamaru Usman takes home the title and wins it once again. There's the episode. There's the breakdowns. Let's see what the chat is saying for this fight, and then we'll move things along. Wael Al Gadban is saying, yo, lock Angela Hill plus 187 versus Hebus. I agree. I believe that fight's not for another 2 weeks, but I do like that line. Noah is saying Rose versus Yang inside the distance could be slept on play. I could see the finish. I agree. Yeah, not a bad spot. Let's see what the over-under is there. Under 4.5 plus 120. I'd want a little bit better of a line there, to be honest. But yeah, I do like Zhang there. Stefan Pack, 50-45 Usman. I agree. Pete G is saying, what is your issue with overs? Personally, I like Rose versus Yang to go the distance, but may take an over on Shevchenko. It's just never been good to me. Like people have their own preferences in terms of what they like to bet. I like to bet unders. You know, I like to bet straights. Straights are definitely my most my best spot. That's where I get my best work done. But I don't know. Like I don't like sweating them out. People have their preferences, and overs are definitely not mine. Ty Drucken is saying, wish I could roll up with you tonight, but I'm sick as a dog right now. I'll definitely have a little extra just for you, my guy. TJ Kill, lol, just look at his body before Till. Oscar and Diaz and look at him against Usman. He definitely wasn't in the best shape. Yeah, he wasn't in the best shape, but again, I just don't think that it's going to matter here. Gunny saying, I'm just saying you can parlay in with anybody, including Valentina. I agree. What do you think of Pat Sabatini? I didn't see that part of the stream. I think Pat wins. Biggs, oh my God, I like that Usman is training with Whitman for inside the distance, but he is such a smart coach, so I can see them just taking him down or controlling against the fence. So like the under covers the Masvidal KO as well. I agree. SKD, this is Usman's moment. I'll take the chalk on him, especially here. I don't blame you. TGK is saying Usman was dazed, wobbly, deaf. He was frozen deer in the headlights. Burns wasn't able to capitalize. That happens to be what Jorge does. I don't know. Thank you, Gunny. Thank you so much. Mark my words, Jeremy Erickson is saying Jorge KO in second or third round. As for the over on Shevchenko, you can get better odds on over 1.5 than Val outright. Interesting. Not a bad spot. If Val wins, it's almost certain after 1.5. I agree. Regardless, is saying Champ Parlay is plus 130 on Bovada right now. No, Jorge should just go bust the one first or second chase to finish. Yeah, that might be a good approach, right? Just overwhelm Usman. You know, he seemed to have decent enough takedown defense. So just try to break off the clinch, try to break off the cage, and start swinging. Hammering Hog is asking, who is my lock of the night play? The people in the Patreon know who the lock of the night play is. I'm on a 9-event winning streak. My policy is if I'm on a 3-event winning streak or longer, my picks are only behind the Patreon wall, and that's exactly what it's been for the last 4 or 5-ish weeks. So I apologize, Hammering Hog. But once I hit my next losing event, the picks will be free again. Ruvias Rahat is saying, damn, I'm late. I apologize. But you can go back and watch it again. Irregardless, please don't listen to him because it's definitely not Chris Weidman. Especially when I picked Uriah Hall to win. Ink 4K Usman says he wants to knock out, though. Never listen to what a fighter says. Never, ever, ever, ever listen to what a fighter says. I promise you it's never going to work out. Mr. Campy 412 is saying, I still can't understand why we're getting this rematch. Usman wants it. Masvidal wants it. And that's all that matters, unfortunately. TGK Usman has no shot of finishing Masvidal. I agree. JB is saying Hill at plus 187 versus Hebus is crazy. I agree. The interim view, great job as always. Thank you for keeping it going, my guy. TG Kill, dude, everyone is betting Usman. Stop thinking you start betting a minus 450. If you have the balls to bet a minus 450, go for it, right? Like, who gives a fuck? If it's cash in your pocket at the end of the day, who gives a fuck if you're sharp or not? Go for it. All right. That's pretty much it. So I want to give a quick couple of shout outs before I get on out of here. Make sure you guys hit that like. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe. Check out the Patreon if you guys want to know what the lock of the night play is obviously already locked in. I'll be playing my dog of the night either later tonight or tomorrow. Hoping to get a jump start on next week's card by tomorrow or the day afterwards. So those breakdowns will start to drop on the Patreon. Shout out to Coolbet, coolbet.com, promo code MMALOTN number 2. And you guys will get a bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. A great website. You can parlay props. That's one thing a lot of people look for. They're a great website for that. I believe I have my lock of the night play actually locked up on that site because I was able to get the best odds on my lock of the night play on Coolbet. So once again, coolbet.com promo code MMALOTN2. And then lastly, if you guys want to check out the Dog of the Night Challenge, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on the IG, or hit me up in the emails, and I'll be sure to get you guys signed up for that because I know you guys are having a lot of fun. So I'm having a couple more streams throughout the week. The next one is actually going to be in about an hour and a half or so. I'm going to go celebrate some 420 with the wife, enjoy some time, and then come back and I'll be on the stream just to talk some shit for 420 because there's no way I'm not having a lucky late night on 420 because you guys know I gotta do that thing. So I'll see you guys in a little bit if you guys want to come back for the stream. Tomorrow is Wednesday. No stream tomorrow, but I'll be dropping a lot of content on the Patreon. I'll also be dropping my best bets and props article for the UFC event on the Patreon. Thursday, 2 streams, obviously noon Eastern. The DFS show on Salvetri's channel, 8 p.m. Eastern, propping you up with Cody on my channel. Then noon Eastern, or actually they're on the East Coast this time, so it might be actually an even earlier weigh-in time for the fighters. So I'll be doing a live stream for the weigh-ins. Make sure you guys check that out. And then obviously I'll do my ultimate weigh-in show. As you guys know, the guests for that show are going to be Brett Apley from Daily Fan MMA, Dan Levy from Best Fight Picks / Have to Battle. And then lastly, we got my guy Cody, who's going to be making back-to-back appearances on my channel. So yeah, great all-star, star-studded cast that we have for you guys this weekend. So hope you guys check it out. Make sure you guys hit the like. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe. Let's see what anybody's saying on the spot here. While you're listening, you're welcome on the Hill Pick Boys. I was definitely spot. As soon as I saw the odds drop on that, that's definitely what I was thinking about. Ron Burgundy is saying, what's the lock and dog? Gotta check out on the Patreon, my guy. It's only behind the Patreon wall since I'm on a 9-event winning streak. So yeah, your boy's hot. Definitely only putting it up for the patrons, which is why we're up to 316 patrons now. Definitely the biggest MMA betting Patreon out there, and for good reason. I appreciate you guys. Why are you listening? Easy money this weekend. I'm hoping. Gunny said, hey, Tony Gravely said he was going to KO second round finish last weekend. So you're right. TJK, you're right. Def listen to what fighters say, decide for whether they mean the opposite, but they honest unless super high level. Big Omega is going to be in the chat later tonight. Yeah. Ooh, one thing I do want to show off to you guys. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So I do have one of my multi-event parlays hopefully cashing this weekend. I'll pull it up on the screen for you guys here. Since you guys already stayed. Check out this multi-event parlay. So I had Jack Shore, Joe Selecki, Marvin Vittori, Robert Whitaker, Tracy Cortez, Tony Gravely. All of those already hit. And then this weekend I got the champs. If all the champs retain Kamaru Usman, Weili Zhang, and Valentin Shevchenko, that's $150. 22.4K, baby. Hell yeah. And then I got another one that is next weekend. That's finishing off with Yuri Prochazka and Sean Strickland. I will say this, though. I made this parlay before taping Usman, Zhang, and Shevchenko, and obviously the other one before I taped Prochazka, Reyes, and the other one. So, yeah, I'm hoping that this one comes through because if Usman, Weili, and Shevchenko retain this weekend, Your boy's chilling. I'm just saying that. Your boy's chilling. All right. Appreciate you guys checking it out. I'll see you guys in about an hour and a half, closer to midnight for Lucky Late Night. Appreciate you guys checking it out. And have a good evening if you're not going to